As I said, I started in 1967. We moved to Rantoul from Peoria or Morton on Memorial Day weekend and went to work the next day. Uh, I was most of my time was spent there in Rantoul was in the sales department, and we sold a lot. Rantoul was the number one dealership for several years prior to me coming in, and we maintained that for a couple of years there. We were number one combine dealer in the region at that time. We were number one volume dealer at that time. We sold more conditioners when they came out than anybody. We sold 2+2 tractors at Paxton, and we sold more 2+2 tractors than any dealership in the area. So that was some of our accomplishments that we had. And we had really a good base of coverage for farmers. And in Champaign County at that time, there was not a John Deere dealership. Well, there was one, but he wasn't active. And so we had a market share pretty well tied up in that area. Can't say that today. It's a little tougher.
When did you get Steiger?
Oh, well, as far as things that happened during my time there, one of the first things that we always did a good job of putting on introductions of new products and so forth. And we did several. We did one with the 806 series tractor, and we had quite a presentation before it was all over. Then we decided we needed a bigger tractor, and we found the Steiger tractor to be available to us. And we were the earliest dealer in east of the Mississippi River. That was our territory, was the whole eastern half of the United States. We did sell some in Indiana and around, and I don't know the exact number we sold, but probably close to 100 Steiger tractors. And that gave us a good lift into some big equipment that otherwise we couldn't sell in our area because nobody had a tractor big enough to pull them. And we were always thinking to try to do something different, to be a little different than every dealer. And we went through a period making corn planters. There was no Euro wide corn planters available, and we purchased 8-row narrow planters and wind them out. And I think we sold 6 that spring. And we were always a really good planter dealer in our area at that time, which was Paxton and Rantoul. Another thing that I got involved in is I was in the Implement Dealer Association, and we were looking to have, the association was looking for a place to have a farm show, and Gordy Hannigan, a local auctioneer up there, had one the first year there, and it was kind of a bomb deal. And anyway, I ran into him on Sunday morning after church at a restaurant, and we struck up a deal, and I presented it to the board in Wisconsin, and Gordy approved it. So that's why we started the show in Gordyville, and that's been going on 25 years, I guess, probably. And that was a successful venture.
I had worked for International Harvester in the Quad Cities in sales and marketing. And, I always had a thought in the back of my mind that if it worked out, I would be able to come back to the business, Birkey's business. And that played itself out. And I came back and started in sales in Paxton for about 6 months. And I thought I was going to sell for a couple of years or something, but Gary and Dad and the group decided that they were going to add a store in Hoopston. So my Uncle Kelly, who was the manager of Paxton, went to Hoopston. I became the manager of Paxton, and I did that till '84. And then he and I switched stores. I went back over to Hoopston in 1984, and then in 1998 I came to Rantoul as the ag sales manager, and then when Gary retired, I took over that position as president CEO. I think of stories. One that stands out in my mind in 1977, and Gary alluded to it a little bit. International Harvester came out with a concept tractor, the 2+2, which was different than the Steiger tractors, the big four-wheel drives that Rantoul had sold for quite a while. It was a tractor that had the cab on the back. So that concept was new and different. We decided we were going to have to really present this in the right way to the customer in order to be successful. So we decided to have some product shows and skits, and we did. Bob Stalter was we put those on at each one of the 3 stores at that time, Hoopston, Rantoul, and Paxton. And Bob was, Stalter was the IH salesman, and I was the John Deere salesman, and Wayne Coffin, another owner, was the farmer. So we put those skits on, but we followed up after that in those presentations with on-farm demonstrations. We did a lot of that. Gary can attest, we always did a lot of demonstrations of product in order to be successful. And anyway, we demonstrated that, and I got a call from the district manager who got to look, and we had sold at Paxton about 50 of them or so after a period of time. And he called and said that he got to looking in researching, and we had sold more than anybody in the world, any other dealer in the world. So we got a couple plaques, and really that was Bob Stalter, as Gary can attest. Bob was a great salesman and really believed in that concept, and went out and made it happen. So that's a story that I remember very well. So.
Well, I graduated from college at the University of Illinois here in Champaign with an accounting degree. At the time I graduated, there probably were really not CPAs and accountants in farm equipment dealerships. So I went on to work for the world's largest accounting firm for a few years. Spent some time in industry away from here in Dallas and Phoenix. And then in early '92, Dad indicated that Birkey's was going to be growing from 4 to 7 or 5 to 7 stores. They'd added 1 in '91, gone from 4 to 5, and they were going to add a few more that year. And had the foresight to know that it was probably time to have somebody be responsible for the finance, the accounting, and really helping to work that side of the business. And I was at a time of transition in the company I was with, that they were closing their office down, wanted me to move to Miami, which wasn't very appealing at the time. And I think I went with you to a Weber meeting prior to joining the company, just to kind of get my feet wet and see what things were all about. And so did that. And so my first day on the job was July 1st of 1992. And Birkey's had merged with McGrath Farm Equipment, which was Bloomington or Hudson at the time in Gibson City. And so my first day was the first day that those 2 new stores were added in. And so the challenge when I walked in was Birkey's had never had a financial guy, an accounting guy, and I don't think a lot of the guys knew what to do with me. Right? Is that fair? So it was really an uphill battle with some of the guys. As the company had merged, all these guys had been individual entrepreneurs in their own way, and yet as the company grew and went up to 7 stores, we had to have a mindset that was more focused and operated like a complex rather than 7 individual stores. And so that I walked in the first day, and we had 3 different computer systems. We had charts of accounts that were different at every single location. We had 7 stores that were trying to manage their cash flow not very well. I remember at times, as we grew, we probably weren't capitalized well enough as we should be. But it was quite a challenging time for a couple of years, and eventually we got all the computer systems merged into one. We got a consistent chart of accounts. We began to have some monthly reporting. We dealt with kind of the cash management so that we swept all the money into a single location, and it kind of began to set us up for where we are today. There's no way that we could continue to grow without some of the underlying support. And we worked through some very challenging times. I would say those 94, 95, outside of maybe some times you had probably in the late 70s, were pretty tough, right?
Oh, yeah. The 80s.
In the 80s, early 80s. That 94, 95 time frame was very challenging. A lot of things have not changed with the manufacturer. They were pushing inventory. We were putting it to rental fleets, which was going on our balance sheet. And we weren't moving them off the balance sheet fast enough. And so we really had a cash drain and some other things going on. And there was a lot of challenges. And then we were still trying to get used to how do we operate as a single complex for 7 stores. And it took a number of years for us to get there. But after we kind of went through the downturn, I think we all realized what we needed to do to kind of work together as a complex with inventories and some other things. And I think, we were probably one of the earliest pioneers as equipment dealers that looked at the complex inventories. It was available across any location to sell. We looked at our parts inventory as one inventory. We tried to begin moving parts. And eventually, we kind of got control of that, and it really set us up for the large amount of growth that we had starting in like 2001 when we started plucking off all those acquisitions.
Yeah. When we went over to Galesburg, that was a big change for us because we had not reached outside of our traditional territory, and that was outside of that certainly. But it also gave us an opportunity to figure out how we were going to manage the growth and in terms of personnel and different people doing it. When we went to Galesburg, we didn't really have anyone that was really assigned to specific tasks relative to that kind of acquisition. And but in time, and right soon after that, we started putting people in place to have specific responsibilities and called on a lot of the other stores to help us. But and as we grew from there, it became, when we added Polo and Prophetstown, it became real easy to plug them in. And subsequent to that, the other stores fell into place a lot easier than it was when we added Galesburg back in 2001.
And then the other thing that we had to go through that was challenging in the middle 90s was just how we're going to support the organization, from the accounting to the human resources and payroll and marketing. All those things had been done out at every location. And so we started a central office in the old Rantoul building, and we worked on a few functions at a time, and we brought payroll in. If I remember right, we had stores paying their payrolls on all different kinds of cycles, and they were doing it individually at the stores. And with the complex, it became very difficult to manage the tax reporting and a lot of those kind of things. So we consolidated that. We consolidated the accounts payable, probably taking the checkbook away from a lot of the individual stores and doing it centrally. That was a hurdle I think we had to overcome, and how we dealt with the accounts receivable and those kind of things. There was just a lot of transition that really had to happen. It was some very heavy lifting in those years from 92 to probably 96 or 7. But those were the times that really kind of set the organization up and positioned us to kind of move forward and do what we've done for the last 25 years.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to do what we did in the 2000 range, as we added a number of stores, without Mike's expertise that brought in a great set of skills that we didn't have, and helped us led the charge to establish the structure that he talked about in the 90s that really allowed us then to be able to put together the growth that we did. So
it's kind of strange because in my early days as president of the company, and we had 4 stores at the time, was to see that there was enough money in the bank accounts to pay for the goods we'd sold. And we juggled money, and it was quite a chore to try to track things and figure things down. And when Mike got things centralized, well, I didn't have to do that anymore, and that was fun. And then another big challenge we put the computer system in. And that time we had 3 stores, right? And I put the computer system in.
Dad's.
And my other son, Jeff, who will be retiring this year with 40 years with the company, when he got out of college, he decided he wanted to work for Birkey's, and I was wanting him to spend a few years with outside before he came into the business. But he had a girlfriend and this sort of thing, ball players and so forth, that he wanted to stay in the area. And I said, okay, Jeff, you can stay and we'll take you in, but you got to be in charge of this computer system. And he did, and spent many hours with that and trying to oversee it and find a job with it. But that was quite an undertaking. You know, he put everybody under with the computers. And anyway, then we added the construction equipment when we bought Mattoon in, and Jeff went over to the side of managing the construction equipment then. But a lot of changes, not only, and then we worked for the store in Urbana, Rantoul in Urbana, and two of the biggest volume dealers in Illinois merged. And we moved into his building, was way lacking in space and everything to operate. That's when we made the decision we should build a new store in Champaign. And that was a lot of over the road stuff to be done, and it was quite an undertaking to get that handled.